Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Medical Morons. I just took, hopefully, my final boards exam ever. I'm sure most of you know what that feels like. I'll feel a little happier in a couple months once I hear back. But, anyways, I apologize for the delay for new episodes. I know everyone's been on the edge of their seats waiting, but in the future, we'll be more consistent. So, also, I should note we are having our first ever in-person event in Manhattan. We are so excited. It's a panel event with previous guests, including our guest today, and they're going to be talking about all things making a career for yourself in healthcare. It's going to be awesome. I'm just saying it now. There's going to be food, there's going to be drinks, it's going to be networking. You're going to meet young professionals in the field. There's prizes, we're giving free stuff away. Like it's going to be a good time. So if you're interested, go to our Instagram page and the link in bio to sign up. All right, so we have a really exciting guest with us today. It is Alan Withall. He is also known as the New York dental consultant by most of you. I'm sure Alan doesn't really need much of an introduction, but for those of you who don't know him, Alan is a leading consultant with Henry Schein, and he helps tons of practice owners throughout the country launch their own practices. And what I like about him is that he really holds your hand from beginning to end. So you never feel like you're doing it alone. So he introduces you to all these new people, really tells you and warns you of the risks that are possible with starting your own practice, which is really the scariest part. So we get into all the details in the episode. He's also the founder of the FYI Study Club, but in general, he's just really the go-to guy for helping dentists connect with the business knowledge and resources that they need to really make as few mistakes as possible because Alan's seen them before. So it's a really fun episode. I think you guys will like listening to him a lot. So he is like everywhere. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like on Instagram, at these events, like I'm like, everyone says Alan Withall. He has very much like made a name for himself in this area.
Yeah, no, I think he's an incredible resource. He obviously sees a lot. He knows all the different kind of variables in terms of how you have to start off to build a practice. I think he probably gets, as a result of his clientele, a good sense of the market, which is, I think hearing kind of his parameters of what it costs to start a practice all in.
I think it's just a good resource for people to know. Like, I didn't know someone like this existed that was so niche that can connect you to with like who'll hold your hand through the whole process. Like that is very comforting that, you're not gonna just kind of ride this solo. It kind of seems like he's by your side the whole time. And like I'm starting to realize this like with my contract lawyer and stuff like that. It's like you need people who do this all the time. I do not want someone who has not seen what I've done already and they're like, "Oh, I think this should work for you." Like so he has seen it all. He can do it. So I think he gave some really good tips in there for anyone, even if you're not starting your own practice, if you're thinking about it, just kind of like how much work and time that goes into it. So I think it's just a good sense for anyone in the medical profession that is trying to figure out their next steps.
Yeah, and these specialists that he brings in, the lawyers, the accountants, the architects, it sounds like they work with a lot of dental practices, so they see the issues all the time, versus, as you were saying, somebody who may be a competent lawyer or accountant, but they don't really know the market. You can get, sidetracked on issues that shouldn't be issues in the process and could end up costing you time and money. So finding that expertise is really important for sure.
Totally, totally. Yeah, so I thought he was great. I will definitely be going to him if I meet him opening a practice anytime soon. All right, let's welcome Alan Withall to Medical Morons.
I'd moved out to New York, New Jersey from Wisconsin 12 years ago. I was an inpatient pharmacy technician, got interested in medical sales, and moved out here not knowing anything about dentistry. I was 23, 24 years old getting into the territory, and I'm like, how the hell am I going to make it in this business? I don't know anything about dentistry. And thought, hey, let me ask some of these young dentists I made friends with what their 3 to 5 year plans are. And everyone said that they wanted to do a practice startup. And when I asked them what they knew about it, they said nothing, right? And then they asked me what I knew about it, and I said nothing. So I asked them how they'd feel if I started a study club that would educate on the dental startup process, and just got a resounding heck yeah. So I started and founded the FYI Study Club back in 2014, and invited all those young dentist friends, got Bank of America to sponsor the space. I got a marketing company to come in, a lease negotiating company, and, like 15 people came, and everyone was like, that's great. 15 people is fantastic. And I wanted more. So really grew it from 15 to 25 to 35. And then I had like 55 people come, and then like 75. And then I had like 90. So I host these study clubs twice a year in the city. They're always free. There's always CEs. It's a great opportunity for young dentists to come and network, find job opportunities, and really just get educated both on doing a practice startup and existing practices, learning how to increase the production of their practice. So came the New York dental consultant, and yeah, here I am.
So do you mind giving a little bit, like what is the New York Dental Consultant?
I found through education, people wanted to come to me and work with me. So whereas the average rep in my shoes does maybe 1 to 3 practice builds a year, I'm finding that I'm now doing around 15 to 20 by providing the consulting from start to finish for your colleagues on how to do a practice startup. There are consultants out there that charge anywhere between $50,000 and $75,000 for their consulting services. I don't think that they do a bad job by any means. I just know that by working with me, I can provide the same services complementary. So from vision to introducing you to your broker, your architect, your contractor, your marketing team, the entire team on how to do a practice startup, I do all of that complimentary in exchange for your equipment and merchandise business, which you'll have to buy from someone anyway. And the consultants charging the $50,000 to $75,000 don't even sell equipment or merchandise. They still make you get it through an authorized distributor.
Can you give us a little sense of your business? So how many practices are you currently working with for a startup practice? Like what does their initial capital investment look like in terms of equipment that you would put in there? Like, I think what may be helpful is you telling us like a case study as an example of a practice that you've recently worked with and kind of how you've helped them along.
Absolutely. I can even get pretty specific with numbers, withholding my calculator here. But so traditionally, let's say a doctor comes to me and says, Alan, I want to do a startup. And I'll ask them, timeline, when do you want to get started? Because a very realistic start to finish timeline would be about 12 months. So someone comes to me and says, how do we get started? First, I would introduce them to a bank. The bank would then pre-approve them. Without a pre-approval letter, landlords won't really want to talk to the dentist. So they won't really take them seriously. So you get the pre-approval letter, which also tells you how much you can afford for rent. You never want to go start looking for spaces before you know how much you can pay, because you might fall in love with a space that you might not end up even being able to pay for. So knowing how much you can afford would be also how much the bank is going to give you as a loan. I know Bank of America recently upped their financing to allow for around $950,000 for most providers. It doesn't mean that I want my startup dentist to spend $950,000, right? Like there is a budget that you want to allow for a startup. So when someone comes to me and says, Alan, I want 10 operatories from day one, I don't necessarily think that is realistic. I would say that 5 to 6 operatories is usually the number that you want to start with, just because mathematically it makes most sense. The rule of thumb is 300 square feet per operatory-ish, okay? Each operatory is not 300 square feet. The additional square footage makes up for your waiting room, your ADA accessible bathroom, your private office, etc. So if someone wants to do 5 operatories, you multiply that times the 300 square feet, and that's 1,500 usable square feet. It's an important way to look at it, because when you connect with a broker, they're going to show you rentable square feet, not usable. So usually there's anywhere between a 25 to 40% loss factor. But that could be anything like the landlord charging you for the stairwell, the elevator shaft. If there's a sidewalk with an awning, they count that as square feet. So you take that usable square feet, the 1,500, you divide it by 0.75, and now you know that you're looking for roughly 2,000 rentable square feet for your 5-op practice. Okay, so taking that 1,500 usable square feet as an example, you're roughly going to be paying around, in the tri-state, $240 a square foot for construction and plumbing. Okay, that puts you at $360,000 for construction and plumbing. Now, if we add about $35,000 IT budget, okay, for 2 to 3 rooms, mechanical equipment and sterilization, you're probably looking in the range of $220,000. That's a big plus or minus number because it depends on the brand and package that you select. There's also a figure in here whether or not you want to start with a PANCEF, or a CBCT. So I'm going to leave that number out because it's not a must from day one, but you could figure in around $40,000 to $60,000. And then the bank's also going to recommend you to start with about $60,000 of working capital. And you're also going to have to pay around $40,000 between an architect and or designer. Okay, so all said and done, you're looking at around, I can't really show that, but $715,000 for your budget. Now, the bank used to give around $750 to $850, and now they've upped that to $950, like I said. And I literally just sat down with a pediatric dentist yesterday who's working with that $75,000 consultant, and their numbers were nowhere near this range. She'd also decided to work with a high-end designer, and I felt that the 2,500 usable square feet space that she found was honestly out of budget. But sometimes when dentists hire these third-party consultants, they try to keep us out of the picture, and it becomes a little messy. So that's why I always recommend, doctors to come to me early on, learn all these very realistic figures, since I've built a couple hundred practices at this point in 12 years, and I have a package for success.
Are you exclusive to Schein as your rep? And okay, so what is that relationship for the dentist like? Obviously I understand that when you make your purchase and you buy the equipment, but is there an ongoing maintenance contract that Schein, looks to? What happens when something's not working? And maybe these are questions that all dentists know the answer to, and I'm just uneducated. So, which is
no,
sure.
these are really great questions. Yes, I work for Henry Schein proudly. They gave me this opportunity and I ran with it. So we do have loyalty programs at Henry Schein, one called Thrive Signature. Okay, it's an incredible loyalty program that pays for itself. I'm not going to go through the odd specifics, but one in particular gives a dentist 18 months of free labor. So for a year and a half, you're covered. If something happens in the office to any of your equipment, you don't worry about it. Okay. We do have an exclusive relationship with ADEC, for example, which is a very high-end, top-of-the-line, incredible equipment company that we work with, that we worked out a 5-year labor warranty. So literally anything that happens to that ADEC equipment over 5 years, the labor is really expensive. It's upwards of $500 an hour. So 5 years of free labor is a great deal, and 10 years on their parts. So if something happens, my relationship with the office is I'm the guy who's coming into your office physically. I handle DSOs that spread across Georgia, DC, Boston, and so I can't be there physically. But when someone calls me, I pick up. I like to think I'm one of the most responsive guys out there, and that has led to a lot of my success. Um, when you're in trouble, you want someone you can rely on. So I've been working with some people literally for the last 12 years.
It seems to me that you're probably in a great position to sort of see emerging trends in dentistry, especially among young dentists coming out of dental schools. Like compared to when you first started, even, what are you noticing as the differences? I mean, I would think DSOs have taken large market share and are sort of changing the landscape for a lot of young emerging dentists. But from your vantage point, what are you seeing as these emerging trends and differences than even back in 2014 when you began your business?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've found that there has been a sweeping change of the amount of people reaching out to me to do practice startups. It's actually crazy. Like I thought maybe it would slow down. To your point, DSOs are really aggressive, but I think that is also a reason why there have been such an uptick in startups, because there aren't as many practices for sale for dentists to buy. It used to be that you worked as an associate for a practice, older dentist transition the practice over to you when the time is right, and the associate spends all that time building up their end of the deal, right? But even with a first right of refusal in the contract, you would find that the dentist selling would just get an offer from a DSO and have that be it, and if you get a loan from the bank as the associate to purchase the practice, generally you can't match the same offer that the DSO gave, because they got money, the disposable money that's not a loan. So that's what I'm seeing. If a dentist is lucky enough to find a practice that is worth something to buy, I find also that there's just a lot of issues. Cash flow is an issue. They're hiding something. They're mid negotiations in the deal and it falls through for whatever reason. So I'm all about the right acquisition. I make money either way as a rep, because no dentist selling the practice these days sells it with new equipment. So I actually would stand to make more money off of an acquisition. I tell dentists coming to me, if they think I'm trying to sell them, not doing a startup, please find the acquisition. But I find that most people will then say, I want to do a startup because I want to brand it my way. I don't want the staff that's stuck in their old ways. I don't want the problems from this office. I could go on, but I am seeing an uptick in startups for those reasons. I have DSOs as clients and they're looking to grow.
So we had Dr. Dekansky on, who went through kind of step by step exactly what you need to start a practice and mentioned you, and that's kind of how we got introduced. So we kind of have that chronological trajectory of what, you need to do kind of in a vague setting. Even though there's less opportunities, a lot of the people I know who are starting their own practices are acquiring a practice. They might want to revamp it or change it. So for anyone, startups or someone acquiring a practice, what are those marketing tips that, there could be 5 dentists in your area, but if they're all kind of set in their ways and not marketing appropriately, that could still be a really great location to have a practice. So what are those marketing tips that you think put them over the edge that make them stand out over others?
Yeah, great question. I think that if there was a perfect answer to that, then every marketing company would be doing the same thing, right? But I enjoy working. I work now primarily with a company called We Capture Media. Okay. Do I think they're the best in the universe? To me, yes, because I call them the answer, right? And I think that's half the battle. Someone who's eager to earn your business and be there when you need to do a photo shoot and can reach you and obviously most importantly get you patients. Um, I'll touch on a couple of things. One, budget wise, you generally want to be around 6 to 8% of your proposed production to be spent on marketing. So if we take the lowest percentage of 6%, and most startups say, I want to do $1 million my first year. Okay, you want to do $1 million your first year? At least 6% should be allocated towards marketing, 60,000 annually, 5,000 monthly. The problem with a lot of startups is that they don't budget appropriately to have the $5,000 spend a month for marketing. Most end up only having $2,500 to $3,500 a month. And that's okay, sort of. You'll just have a more gradual growth. And don't be surprised if you're not marketing in advance of your practice opening, that you don't have patients in the chair when you launch your website the day you open your practice. So my timeline that I show visually to all my startups when I do my presentation is there's a vision stage at the very beginning. Okay. I always say it's never too early to start talking about marketing and branding because there is a time that's too late. I don't know what the exact time. Do you launch your website 3-4 months in advance? But it's definitely sooner than when you open your doors. Okay, I've had retail space, street level practices do incredibly well with like the QR codes on the door. You know, pre-book your appointment, opening soon. I think that's an incredible idea, an advantage for practices. You know, AI is now on Google. If you're not using AI in your marketing, you're already behind. I know nothing about it, so you can't ask me, but like I know enough to mention that. Another incredible thing is if there's an existing practice, right? Someone did an acquisition. There's always lost patients. Okay. What type of communication tools are you using with your practices, like Sesame, Lighthouse, Demand Force? These are all tools to communicate with your patients through text message, through email, appointment reminders, what have you. You can run campaigns through these services. So like, let's say you haven't seen a patient for 18 months. Let's get those back. Let's offer them a discount or something on their next whitening, anything to re-engage and remind them that you still exist. Or, hey, I'm the new dentist. Here's some new initiatives we plan to run with our patients who come back to us. Just anything to be different. Go to the park, set up a table. If you have a street level practice, make sure and see if the town will allow you to have an A-frame out front, put goofy little things out front. I know Stephen Chavez, Blue Line Dental, does an incredible job of that. Stephanie Sager in Brooklyn does a great job of that. Anything to be cute and fun and different. I love that. And by the way, I should have mentioned before, I love Jackie Dukansky. She's become a really good friend of mine, and she just equipped her 4th room. Her practice is now, I believe, a little over 2 years old. She started with 3. The example of the pediatric bay that I mentioned with the private room is exactly her. And she has an incredible practice that she built and poured her heart into, and she's doing well in Gramercy Park. So.
Yeah, she's doing awesome. Smile Out Loud Pediatric Dentistry for anyone interested. And such a cute office. She had such a great vision. Okay, so I kind of, I guess, want to back up. So let's say, I'm a medical moron. I'm someone who, I know my craft, but I don't know anything about business. And I'm coming to you because I'm about to be a practice owner. And who are you connecting me with? Again, we kind of did the chronological order of things, but we have a marketing team. Do you set me up with an accountant, a lawyer? Who are my contacts that I'm getting from you? And then are you able to give kind of an estimate of what all of that combined would cost? That might be a big ask, but yeah, I'm just curious, so people can see, I'm sure people try to do things on their own and then end up failing, and that's when they come to you too. So what does that look like?
Yeah, great question. So, wow. So the timeline. Okay. It's funny when I do the presentation, I always say, don't catch me here. and that's the equipment stage. Okay. But yes, I do introduce you to an accountant. I have a great one, Jerry Icavano, LLI Advisory. I usually make an early introduction to him because, especially if you're opening up in New York State, it can take several months to incorporate your business, for one. Okay. For two, you should absolutely always have a dental specific CPA. Okay. Dental specific as much as you can through this process. Dental specific architect, dental specific contractor, because they're going to get the job done faster. They know how to file and expedite the permits appropriately. And, you know, when Joe Schmo contractor who's never built a dental practice in his life tells you that they can build it in 5 to 6 months and it ends up being 12, and you're usually getting a free 6-month construction allowance, now you're paying for 6 months of rent that you could have otherwise saved by paying perhaps a little more with a dental specific contractor. Okay. So as far as attorneys go, I recommend a lease negotiating service that charges a flat $8,000 fee called We Care. I know We Capture Media.
Yeah, I
We
was like,
Care.
this is why I'm getting confused. Okay.
So there's We Care Practice Advisors, $8,000 flat fee. They'll run demographics reports for you. They'll do your lease negotiations. They have a team of attorneys who will do that for you. Okay. So it's like, do I work with the attorney, whether dental specific or not, who will charge me by the hour? Or do I work with the person who's going to give me a flat fee and offer more? Okay. Generally, if the attorney, dental specific or not, charging by the hour, if you end up negotiating space one and it doesn't work out, whatever the reason, 3 months in, they try to put in a demolition clause, meaning that within X amount of days, they can just kick you out because they want to demolish the building and redo it. Happens a lot in New York City. Okay. And I've had to move practices that I was a no part of negotiating their leases. Okay. If it doesn't work out 3 months in, the clock is ticking, right? You could be at $4,000 by those 3 months or more. And now you have to move on to space two. It doesn't start over. You're now looking at maybe $12,000 plus dollars. Okay. I have a friend in Jersey City. Everyone knows him. He ended up working with this expensive consultant who recommended this attorney, who is a great attorney but is expensive, and he ended up spending over $20,000 for his attorney fees. And then we did our own episode a year or so ago, where he said, "I wish I'd listened to Alan and using his guys," right? So it's all a learning experience. I'm not saying I have all the best solutions. I've been doing this for 12 years. I've ran through a few different solutions and companies. I believe that I have of the better solutions that are out there in the market. So yes, I have that team. I make those intros. So marketing company, bank, lease negotiating services, Henry Schein design team. Just to sidebar for a second, Henry Schein does your initial drawings complimentary. You don't necessarily have to go hire a designer for $25,000 from day one, but we also provide the dental mechanical engineering plans for the equipment that you select, very detailed electrical and plumbing, for your contractor and architect to properly bid on your project. Without that, it's all a guess. And we also provide that complimentary once you've put a deposit down on the equipment that you want. Okay. So Schein design team, contractor, architect, designer, not mandatory, but you can absolutely be introduced to one. We mentioned the CPA and also attorney. Anything else that you need, I have it.
Yeah. But that's the major players.
Those are the major players throughout.
And then yes. Are you able to give like an estimate of like how much that's costing someone?
Sure. Again, We Care is an $8,000 flat fee. Marketing budgets can really vary, okay? But we talked about $5,000 a month. CPA, I honestly don't have their exact costs offhand, but you can interview multiple accounting companies as well to see who best fits your budget. Um, the contractors are going to be anywhere in the range between 200 and 240, upwards of 300 and 350 per square foot. It really can range with the contractors. Architects, depending on the services they're providing, whether they include design or not, could be anywhere around $30,000 to $40,000. Also depends on the size of your space.
So you've worked with obviously so many clinicians, practitioners. What, you know, let's be real. People want to make money. That's the goal with all of this. They want to provide good care, of course, but that's not really your territory. So for meeting all these practice owners, what are the most successful ones doing when it comes to business wise? Like in this day and age, would it be better to have 10 practices but be partnered with a DSO who takes like 50%, or is it better to have one practice yourself? Like what kind of business strategies or recommendations could you make to someone to say like this is what you should be focusing on with what the future is going to bring?
Yeah, great question. So for one, early on, like by the way, Alex Shulman, who happens to be one of my very close friends and clients, I was just so impressed with the amount of CE this guy was taking, and he just always came off to me like this super dentist. And then I have another friend, Elon Gamberg, and that guy's a machine. I mean, he does everything. Same thing with all the wild success you've seen with Dr. Nick in Limitless Dental, already looking to build a second practice just after 2 years. I mean, you don't hear that often, and you're asking about the people who have really shown themselves in the industry. And I feel like those who are taking additional CE ploys, I've never been myself, but I see like everyone who comes out of there is like a new dentist, a brand new person. The camaraderie from the people they meet there, it's like you're like part of this elite status of dentists.
Is there sort of a common mistake that you've seen startup practices make that, for whatever reason is something to avoid?
I mean, we talked about a little bit of it, right? Like signing a lease with a demolition clause in it. Don't do that. There's having the right person negotiate your lease is incredibly important. Okay. Don't listen to the broker. By the way, I love brokers. I love brokers. They hate when I say this. I'm sorry to say it publicly again, but brokers get paid by the landlord. Okay. Um, Always have a third party negotiate your lease. Even the letter of intent that the broker is so eager to have you fill out and sign. While an LOI is not a legally binding agreement, it is the start of your negotiations. So there's a lot of steps. You cannot do this on your own. It's like you will make very costly mistakes.
Okay, so as we're wrapping up, just a couple of final questions. So before I met you, you were the New York Dental Consultant. That is your brand. That's his Instagram handle. So that's how people probably know of you. They might not know Alan Withall, and then they're like, oh, New York Dental Consultant. Oh, okay, yeah, I know what that is. How did how did that come about? How's that helped you? I feel like, we talk about the side hustle a lot on here. I guess that's not a side hustle for you. It's just a way of promoting yourself, but dentists want to do that too. So what has that done for you? How has that come about? Any quick tips you can kind of give people who are trying to grow their practice and their recognition?
Yeah. The earlier that you start branding yourself, Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and Twitter, they're all free, right? So why are you not doing it? I have my personal Instagram. It doesn't matter what it is because whatever. But I post cooking on there and like my real estate stuff, and like dentists might not want to see that. But occasionally I'll slip in some real estate stuff and maybe some Chef Al stuff, just so people know I'm human. Um, but New York Dental Consultant came about when I was touring this Serona facility in Long Island City. And someone took a picture of me in the chair, and I was like, I should share this. This is a cool looking chair. And it just evolved into me posting testimonials from dentists, written ones. that I used to hand out, and then some video testimonials that the Henry Schein marketing team shot. And there's no better referral than a referral from one of your colleagues. So by showing them what other people have said or posting practices that I've been a part of building, this is why people come to me.
That's great. All right. So, final question. We like to get into something silly, relatable that's happened in your career that may be working with a practice, something funny that, dentists, doctors can all relate to.
Sure. How about the first day that I went into my first practice? I was in Fort Lee and I hadn't been to sales training yet. Okay. And I walked into my first practice. Hi, my name's Alan. I don't really know anything about dentistry, but I wanted to come in and put a face to a name. Is there anything that you need to buy today? And she was very kind at first, and said that I need to buy some forceps. And I said, great. Do you have a catalog? Do you want to show me which forceps that you want to buy? So she opens up the catalog. She points to the forceps and says, okay, how much for these? And I said, well, the price is right there in the catalog. And I didn't know that we could discount. So obviously, to let everybody know, price is dependent on your rep, obviously. And if you're looking at the web and you see a price and it says catalog, you shouldn't assume by looking at other websites that they're going to be cheaper, because it's all dependent on your rep. Needless to say, that doctor told me to get out of her office, and I never spoke to her again. And I waited until sales training, knowing that I have the power to discount.
That's a really good tip, because I could see myself being on the other end and just being, okay, I guess I'll pay for that, not knowing that. So, all right, we're gonna negotiate. That's
Yes,
really, really
yes.
funny. Okay, great. I mean, that's all the time we have, but we've taken a lot of your time, so I really appreciate you coming on. This has been great. Where can people find you, work with you, get started on their dental startups?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Kylie and Michael. New York Dental Consultant, all spelled out, or just reach me on my cell phone, 262
Whoa. All right. We got the direct contact. All right, great. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I hope everyone
Great.
starts to work with you very soon if they want to get a good practice going.
Thanks, Kylie. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Alan. It was really good. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Medical Morons. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review.